When you look up at the night sky, you see a silent grey sphere, and you assume it's just a dead piece of rock drifting quietly through space. But scientists are hiding a deeply uncomfortable truth about our closest neighbour. If that moon wasn't exactly where it is, you wouldn't be alive to look at it. We're used to thinking of Earth as a safe, peaceful blue marble floating in the void. The story we've always been told is simple. We sit at the perfect distance from the sun. Liquid water appeared. Life flourished. Billions of years passed, and here we are. But behind that comforting picture lies an invisible architect, one that has been holding the entire system together from the very beginning. The moon is not just a romantic light in the darkness. It is not just a dusty target for astronauts to leave footprints on. It is the true astrophysical heart of this planet. And here's the strange part. The story of how the moon came to be is born out of unimaginable violence. About 4.5 billion years ago, when our world was still a hot and chaotic wasteland, a Mars-sized object called Theia slammed directly into Earth. Most people think of it as a random cosmic accident, a moment of destruction that happened to leave some debris behind. But that's not the full picture. This impact wasn't just a tragedy. It was a massive planet-scale chemical reactor. The collision increased Earth's mass by 10%. That might sound like a minor detail, but without that extra gravitational pull, our planet would have bled its water vapor into space. The global oceans would never have survived. The sheer, incomprehensible energy of the crash boiled the Earth's mantle, releasing vast amounts of carbon dioxide from deep within the rock. This created the exact chemical environment, using transition metals as catalysts, needed to spark the very first building blocks of biological life. If that violent impact had never happened, Earth would not be the blue oasis we know today. It would have remained a sterile, hostile rock. No active carbon cycle, no chance for life, none. But the newly formed moon didn't just give us the foundation for life in the ancient past. It began quietly controlling the planet's physical systems, its atmosphere, its oceans, and even time itself. And what it is secretly controlling right now will make you realize just how fragile our existence truly is. The moon's control over our planet happens in a dimension we experience every single day, yet never actually feel: time. You know that Earth rotates on its axis once every 24 hours. But what you probably don't know is that this speed is entirely artificial, held in check by forces we rarely stop to acknowledge. Since the day it was born, the Earth has been slowly losing its spin. The moon's gravity pulls relentlessly on our oceans, creating massive tidal bulges across the surface. As our planet rotates, the jagged ocean floors scrape against these enormous mountains of water, acting like a colossal brake pad. This cosmic braking system has been steadily, ruthlessly slowing Earth down for billions of years. But here's the real problem. If the moon had never existed, this gravitational braking would never have happened. And today, the Earth wouldn't spin once every 24 hours. A single day would last only 8 to 10 hours. Imagine that for a moment. The sun rising and setting in frantic 4-hour cycles. Every biological rhythm, every sleep cycle thrown into absolute chaos. But the biology is just the beginning. What scientists discovered next about the atmosphere is completely unexpected. Earth's atmosphere acts as a massive heat engine, constantly trying to move warmth from the baking equator to the freezing poles. Without the moon slowing us down, a planet spinning that violently would cause the Coriolis force to spiral completely out of control. From space, Earth wouldn't look like a calm blue sphere. It would be wrapped in harsh horizontal cloud bands, looking more like the aggressive, storm-torn atmosphere of Jupiter. Relentless, circular winds, sweeping across every surface at over 200 kilometers per hour, non-stop, everywhere, Category 4 hurricanes covering the entire globe. Under that kind of constant, violent wind erosion, tall trees like oaks and pines could never exist. Life would be forced to adapt to the aerodynamic nightmare. Forests replaced by flat, creeping vegetation. Animals evolving as heavy, armored creatures just to avoid being swept away. But the roaring skies are only hiding a quieter, deadlier crisis unfolding far below. The moon's gravity doesn't just pull water sideways along the shorelines. It forces deep internal waves to crash against the ocean floor, constantly mixing the cold, dark waters below with the surface above. Without this mixing, the oceans would completely stratify. Nutrients trapped in the deep would never reach the sunlight. The phytoplankton that forms the base of the entire global food web would vanish. The oceans would suffocate, and they would take the rest of the planet down with them. But the worst is still yet to come. Dead oceans and hurricane-force winds. That already sounds like the ultimate planetary nightmare. But the moon provides an even greater shield, one that protects the very architecture of our climate from collapsing entirely. Right now, Earth tilts at a comfortable 23.5 degrees. That precise tilt is the only reason we have predictable, life-giving seasons. But orbital mechanics are incredibly ruthless. Massive planets like Jupiter and Saturn send out gravitational ripples that constantly try to topple Earth over. The only reason our planet doesn't lose its balance is the massive gravitational anchor of the moon, holding us steady in the dark. And this is where things get genuinely terrifying. When scientists ran the simulations, modeling what happens to Earth without the moon, the results were catastrophic. Our tilt would violently swing anywhere between 0 and 85 degrees. Think about what that actually means. If the tilt drops to 0 degrees, seasons are completely erased. The equator becomes an unbearable, scorching furnace. The poles are plunged into a permanent, absolute ice age. But if the tilt swings to 85 degrees, it triggers total planetary devastation. The poles would point directly at the sun. During endless summer months, polar glaciers would literally boil away, drowning the continents in global floods. Then winter would arrive, plunging those same regions into months of pitch-black, freezing darkness. No complex ecosystem could survive that level of thermal shock. But here is the strange part. The moon isn't just protecting Earth's climate. It is the gravitational keystone holding the entire inner solar system together. The combined mass of the Earth and Moon essentially stabilizes our cosmic neighborhood. If the moon vanished, the orbits of Venus and Mercury would instantly become unstable. Computer simulations reveal that Mercury's orbit would warp so violently that it would intersect with Venus. The resulting gravitational slingshot could physically eject Mercury out of the solar system entirely, casting it out into the cold void of space. Without the moon, the map of our solar system would be rewritten by a catastrophe we can barely comprehend. The moon is the silent glue keeping our neighboring planets from destroying each other. But its most shocking secret lies inside your own DNA. If you somehow survived the megastorms, the boiling oceans, and the orbital chaos, life might still find a way to cling to the rocks. But that life wouldn't be us. the very existence of humanity was violently forced into motion by the moon. We're taught that life began in the oceans and patiently crawled onto land when the time was right, but that's not quite true. Millions of years ago, fish didn't want to leave the water. They were forced out, and the moon was the exact mechanism pushing them. Here's what makes it even stranger. From our perspective on Earth, the moon and the sun appear to be the exact same size in the sky. This isn't just a visual coincidence. It creates a powerful wave frequency, triggering what are known as massive spring tides. Nearly 400 million years ago, these towering 4-meter tides washed ancient fish miles inland. When the tides retreated, those animals were left behind, stranded in isolated, shallow pools of water, miles from the ocean. Trapped under the baking sun, the water quickly evaporated. The oxygen vanished. For these suffocating creatures, there was only one way to survive. They had to crawl. The intense pressure of these lunar death traps forced their fins to tear apart, to evolve into limbs with fingers and bones, just so they could drag themselves to the next pool. If the moon hadn't generated those extreme tides, those suffocating pools would never have existed. Vertebrates would have stayed in the ocean, and mammals, including humans, would never have evolved. You are the product of the moon's gravitational cruelty, and that invisible influence is still wired into our biology today. In the deepest forests, predator and prey base their entire survival on the light of the moon. Without it, our nights would be plunged into permanent, absolute darkness. Vision would become useless. Mammals would have evolved bizarre, alien anatomies, relying entirely on smell and echolocation. When you look at the moon tonight, you aren't just looking at a rock. You are looking at the gravitational ladder that pulled you out of the ocean, the anchor that holds your climate together, the brake that stops the winds from tearing your cities apart. Without the moon, Earth wouldn't be a peaceful home. It would be a screaming, sterile hellscape. So ask yourself, how safe are we really, knowing that our entire existence depends on a silent stone hovering quietly in the dark?